First contact. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Captain Elena Reyes as she stood on the bridge of the ESS Horizon, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. After years of preparation and months of travel, they were about to venture beyond the boundaries of known space, pushing the limits of human exploration further than ever before. Status report. Elena called out, her voice steady despite the excitement coursing through her veins. Lieutenant Commander Javid Malik, her second-in-command, responded promptly. All systems nominal, Captain. We're ready to initiate the jump to the Proxima Centauri system on your command. Elena nodded, taking a deep breath. This was it, the moment that would go down in history books. Initiate jump sequence. The ship's quantum drive hummed to life, creating a localized wormhole that would propel them across light years in mere moments. As the countdown began, Elena gripped the railing in front of her, steeling herself for the journey. Jump in 3, 2, 1. A blinding flash of light engulfed the bridge, and Elena felt a momentary sensation of weightlessness. When her vision cleared, the familiar stars had been replaced by an alien sky. Jump successful, Captain, Jave reported, his voice tinged with awe. We've arrived in the Proxima Centauri system. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Elena quickly refocused her crew. Excellent work, everyone. Now, let's see what's out there. Begin full sensor sweep of the system. As the crew set to work, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was an irrational thought. They were light years from Earth, in a star system never before visited by humans. And yet, Captain, the urgent voice of Ensign Yuki Tanaka, the sensor specialist, cut through her thoughts. I'm detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system. It's massive. Elena strode over to Yuki's station, studying the readouts. What are we looking at, Ensign? Yuki's fingers flew across her console. It appears to be a structure, Captain. Artificial in nature, approximately 50 kilometers in length. It's coming towards us. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They weren't alone. Red alert, Elena ordered, her training kicking in. Shields up, weapons on standby. Open all communication channels. As the crew scrambled to follow her orders, the massive structure drew closer. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a sleek, silvery vessel that seemed to shimmer and shift as it moved, defying the laws of physics as they understood them. This is Captain Elena Reyes of the Earth Ship Horizon, Elena broadcast, her voice calm and clear. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. Please respond. For several tense moments, there was nothing but silence. Then, without warning, a beam of purple light shot out from the alien vessel, enveloping the horizon. Shields holding, Captain, Jave reported. But there's something else. Some kind of energy signature. It's trying to penetrate our minds. Elena felt it then, a pressure in her head, as if something was trying to force its way into her thoughts. She gritted her teeth, fighting against the intrusion. Around her, she saw her crew members doing the same, some more successfully than others. Just as suddenly as it began, the assault stopped. The purple light vanished, and the alien vessel seemed to pause in its approach. Status report. Elena called out, shaking off the lingering effects of the attack. Minimal damage to the ship, Captain, Jave responded, his voice shaky. But several crew members are reporting severe headaches and disorientation. Before Elena could respond, a new voice filled the bridge. A voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Interesting, the voice said, its tone a mixture of curiosity and surprise. Your minds, they resist us. How is this possible? Elena straightened her back, addressing the unseen speaker. I am Captain Elena Reyes. Who are you, and what was the purpose of your attack? There was a pause, and Elena could almost feel the alien presence considering her words. We are the Zarkai, the voice finally responded. Rulers of 1,000 worlds, masters of the mind. And you You are an anomaly. We didn't come here to fight, Elena said firmly. We came to explore, to learn. If you truly rule 1,000 worlds, surely you can see the value in peaceful exchange. Another pause, longer this time. Perhaps the Zarkai voice conceded. Your species intrigues us, humans. You will come aboard our vessel. We have much to discuss. Elena exchanged glances with Javed. This was not how they had expected first contact to go, but it was an opportunity they couldn't pass up. Agreed, Elena responded, but I will bring a small team with me, and we expect to be treated as equals and return safely to our ship. Your terms are acceptable, the Zarkai responded. Prepare yourselves. We will transport you shortly. As the communication cut off, Elena turned to her crew. Javed, you're with me. Dr. Ling, you too. We'll need your expertise in xenobiology. And Ensign Tanaka, I want you along as well. Your sensor data might prove invaluable. As the team prepared for the unknown, Elena couldn't shake a sense of both excitement and dread. They had come seeking new frontiers, and they had certainly found one. But at what cost? The Zarkai's attempt to invade their minds was troubling, to say the least. Little did Elena know that this encounter would be the first step in a conflict that would reshape the galaxy. A conflict where the unique nature of the human mind would prove to be both humanity's greatest asset and its gravest threat. As the purple light enveloped them once more, transporting them to the Zarkai vessel, Elena steeled herself for whatever lay ahead. The future of humanity now rested on her shoulders, and she was determined to face it head-on. The team materialized in a vast, shimmering chamber aboard the Zarkai vessel. The walls seemed to pulse with an inner light, and strange, organic-looking structures grew from the floor and ceiling. It was like nothing they had ever seen before. Before them stood 3 tall, slender beings. Their skin was a pale lavender, and their large, almond-shaped eyes glowed with an inner light. They had no visible mouths, yet when they spoke, their thoughts resonated directly in the humans' minds. Welcome, humans, the central figure projected. I am Zarleth, overseer of this sector. You have surprised us greatly this day. Elena stepped forward, her posture straight and confident despite the alien environment. I am Captain Elena Reyes. We come with peaceful intentions and a desire for mutual understanding. Zarleth's eyes narrowed slightly. Peace is a luxury afforded to those who submit to our rule, Captain Reyes. But your minds resist our dominion. This has never happened before. Dr. Ling, the team's xenobiologist, couldn't contain her curiosity. If I may ask, what exactly did you attempt to do to us? Some form of telepathic communication. The Zarkai to Zarleth's left answered, its mental voice tinged with what might have been amusement. Communication. No, little one. We attempted to subjugate your minds, as we have done with every species we've encountered. Yet you resist. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Subjugate? You mean to enslave us? Enslave is such a harsh word, Zarleth responded. We bring order to chaos, unity to division. Under our rule, 1,000 worlds prosper. At the cost of their free will, Jave muttered, earning him a sharp look from Elena. Zarleth's attention focused on Javed. Free will? A quaint concept. One that leads to conflict, to suffering. Our way is better. Elena intervened before the conversation could escalate. Clearly, we have very different philosophies, but surely we can find common ground. We have much to offer, knowledge, resources, a new perspective. The third Zarkai, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. Perhaps. Your resistance to our abilities is intriguing. We would study this phenomenon further. Study? Elena asked, a note of wariness in her voice. Yes, Zarleth confirmed. You will remain here, as our guests. We will unlock the secrets of your minds, and in return, we will share with you the wonders of our civilization. Elena's hand instinctively moved towards her communicator, but she found it unresponsive. They were cut off from the horizon. I'm afraid that wasn't a request, Captain, Zaleth's mental voice echoed in their minds, tinged with cold amusement. You are now under the protection of the Zarkai Empire. Resistance is inadvisable. As alien guards materialized around them, Elena realized that their mission of peaceful exploration had just become something far more dangerous. They were now prisoners in an alien empire, their unique minds the only thing standing between humanity and enslavement. The first contact had been made, but it was clear that the real battle, a battle for the very essence of human freedom, was only just beginning. The psionic barrier days blurred into weeks as Captain Elena Reyes and her team were subjected to a battery of tests aboard the massive Zarkai vessel. The aliens' fascination with the human mind's resistance to their psionic abilities grew with each passing day, as did the intensity of their experiments. Elena paced the confines of her quarters, which doubled as a high-tech laboratory. The room was comfortable enough, but the constant surveillance and frequent examinations wore on her nerves. She paused at the viewport, staring out at the unfamiliar stars, her thoughts drifting to the horizon and the rest of her crew. A soft chime announced the arrival of Dr. Ling, the team's xenobiologist. The door slid open, revealing the petite scientist escorted by two towering Zarkai guards. "Captain," Dr. Ling nodded, her voice tight with barely concealed excitement. "I've made a breakthrough in understanding our unique situation." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Go on, Doctor." As the door closed behind her, Dr. Ling's words tumbled out in a rush. "It's our brains, Captain. The human brain structure is fundamentally different from any other species the Zarkai have encountered. We have a natural psionic barrier." "A barrier?" Elena asked, intrigued. "How is that possible?" Dr. Ling's eyes gleamed with scientific fervor. "It's a combination of factors. Our neural pathways, the electrical impulses in our brains, even our very thoughts, they create a kind of static. It's like white noise that disrupts the Zarkai's psionic signals." Elena considered this information. "So, we're naturally resistant to their mind control, but they can still communicate with us telepathically." "Exactly," Dr. Ling nodded. "It's the difference between shouting over a noisy crowd and trying to control that crowd with a whisper. They can project strong thoughts to us, but subtle manipulation is nearly impossible." A spark of hope ignited in Elena's chest. "This could be the advantage we need. Have you shared this information with Javid and Yuki?" Dr. Ling shook her head. "Not yet. The Zarkai have been keeping us separated most of the time. I think they're afraid we'll conspire against them." "Smart of them," Elena muttered. "We need to find a way to communicate with the others and with the Horizon. There has to be a way to." Her words were cut short as the door slid open again. Zaleth, the overseer, glided into the room, flanked by guards. "Captain Reyes," the aliens' thoughts resonated in their minds. "I trust you find your accommodations satisfactory." Elena straightened, meeting the overseer's glowing eyes. "We're treated well enough, overseer. But we're not guests here, are we? We're prisoners." Zaleth's mental voice carried a note of amusement. "Such harsh words, Captain. We prefer to think of you as subjects of great interest. Your cooperation has been most illuminating." "Cooperation implies choice," Elena retorted. "When will we be allowed to return to our ship?" The alien's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your vessel is safe, Captain. As for your return, that depends on the results of our study. We've only begun to scratch the surface of your species' potential." Dr. Ling stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Overseer, I've made some observations about the nature of human psionic resistance. Perhaps if we shared our findings, we could." Silence. Zaleth's mental command struck like a thunderbolt, causing both humans to wince. "You will share your findings with our scientists, not amongst yourselves." The overseer turned back to Elena. "Captain, we have tolerated your limited freedoms thus far. Do not mistake our curiosity for weakness. You would do well to remember that you are in our power." As if to emphasize the point, a wave of psionic energy washed over them. Elena felt the now familiar pressure against her mind, like a headache building behind her eyes. She gritted her teeth, pushing back against the invasion. To her surprise, she felt something new, a flicker of frustration from Zarleth. The alien's mental assault intensified, but Elena stood her ground, imagining her thoughts as a fortress with impenetrable walls. After what felt like an eternity, the pressure subsided. Zarleth's eyes widened slightly, a mix of surprise and irritation evident in their glow. Fascinating, the overseer murmured, more to itself than to the humans. Your resistance grows stronger. Perhaps we have underestimated you, Captain Reyes. Elena managed a grim smile. Perhaps you have, overseer. Humanity has a long history of exceeding expectations. Zarleth regarded her silently for a moment before turning to leave. Continue your studies, Dr. Ling. Captain, you'll undergo more intensive examinations tomorrow. Prepare yourself. As the door slid shut behind the aliens, Elena turned to Dr. Ling. Did you feel that? They're getting frustrated. Dr. Ling nodded, her eyes wide. It's incredible, Captain. Your resistance was palpable. I could almost see the psionic energy bouncing off you. Elena's mind raced with possibilities. If we can resist them, maybe we can learn to use this ability offensively. We need to find a way to contact Javid and Yuki, and then the Horizon. But how? Dr. Ling asked. They're watching us constantly. A slow smile spread across Elena's face. They're watching us, yes, but they can't read our minds. Not fully. We'll have to be subtle, but I think I have an idea. Over the next few days, Elena and Dr. Ling began a careful dance of coded messages and subtle gestures whenever they were brought together for tests. A tapped finger here, a seemingly casual word there. Slowly, they began to build a system of communication right under the Zarkai's noses. Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon, Lieutenant Commander Javid Malik paced the bridge, frustration evident in every line of his body. Weeks had passed since the captain and her team had been taken aboard the alien vessel, with only sporadic, clearly monitored communications allowed. Any change in the alien ship's status, he asked, for what felt like the 100th time. Ensign Chen, manning the sensor station, shook her head. No, sir. They're maintaining position at the edge of the system. No signs of aggression, but no signs of letting our people go either. Javid ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. They were in an impossible situation, outgunned, out of their depth, and with no way to rescue their captured crew members without potentially starting an interstellar war. Suddenly, an alert chimed from the communications station. Sir, the young officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. It's Captain Reyes. Javid rushed to the station, hope warring with suspicion in his chest. Put it through. The viewscreen flickered to life, showing Elena's face. She looked tired but unharmed. Horizon, this is Captain Reyes. Status report. Javid studied her carefully as he responded. Something felt off, but he couldn't put his finger on it. Captain, it's good to see you. We're maintaining position and monitoring the situation. What's your status? Are you and the team all right? Elena nodded, her expression neutral. We're fine, Commander. The Zarkai have been hospitable. They're very interested in learning about us. She paused, her eyes flicking to something off-screen. In fact, they're considering allowing a cultural exchange. Prepare the ship for possible Zarkai visitors. Javid frowned. This didn't sound like the captain he knew. Understood, Captain. Any specific preparations you recommend? Elena's eyes met his, and for a split second, he saw a flash of something, urgency warning. Just the usual diplomatic protocols, Commander. Oh, and make sure our psionic dampeners are operational. We wouldn't want any miscommunications. Javid's breath caught in his throat. They didn't have any psionic dampeners. This was a message. Understood, Captain, he replied, keeping his voice steady. We'll be ready. Horizon out. As the transmission cut off, Javid turned to his crew. I want a full analysis of that transmission. Something's not right, and the captain's trying to tell us something. As the crew set to work, Javid stared out at the massive alien ship looming in the distance. Whatever was happening aboard that vessel, one thing was clear. The battle for humanity's future had only just begun, and their minds were both the battlefield and the prize, the diplomatic mission. The tension aboard the Horizon was palpable as Commander Javid Malik gathered his senior staff in the ship's conference room. The cryptic message from Captain Reyes had set everyone on edge, and now it was time to decipher its true meaning. "All right, people," Javid began, his voice steady despite the anxiety churning in his gut. "Let's break this down. What do we know?" Lieutenant Sofia Rodriguez, the ship's chief of security, spoke up first. The captain mentioned psionic dampeners, technology we don't have. It has to be a code. "Agreed," said Dr. Elias Chen, the ship's chief medical officer. "And given what little we know about these Zarkai, it's likely related to their telepathic abilities." Javid nodded, pacing the length of the conference table. "So, the captain is warning us about the Zarkai's psionic powers. But why? And what does she want us to do about it?" A moment of silence fell over the room as each officer contemplated the implications. It was Ensign Aisha Patel, a junior communications officer, who spoke up next. "Sir," she said hesitantly, what if the captain is suggesting we find a way to block the Zarkai's abilities?" Javid stopped pacing, turning to face the young ensign. "Go on." Encouraged, Aisha continued, "Well, if these aliens can read minds or control thoughts, we'd be at a severe disadvantage in any negotiation or conflict. But if we could block that ability, we'd level the playing field," Jade finished, a spark of hope igniting in his chest. "Excellent thinking, Ensign. Now, how do we do it?" Dr. Chen cleared his throat. "I might have an idea. We know the human brain operates on electrical impulses. If we could create a device that generates a specific electromagnetic frequency, it might disrupt the Zarkai's psionic abilities." "Like jamming a radio signal," Lieutenant Rodriguez added, catching on quickly. "Exactly," Dr. Chen nodded. "It's a long shot, but it's somewhere to start." Jave felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through him. "All right, here's what we're going to do. Dr. Chen, work with engineering to develop this psionic jammer. Lieutenant Rodriguez, I want you to prepare a security team for possible boarding action. We may need to rescue our people by force." As the officers filed out, each with their assigned tasks, Javid turned his attention to the view screen showing the looming Zarkai vessel. "Hold on, Elena," he murmured. "We're coming." Meanwhile, aboard the Zarkai ship, Captain Elena Reyes was facing a challenge of her own. The Zarkai, frustrated by their inability to fully penetrate human minds, had changed tactics. Instead of forceful probing, they now sought to win the humans' trust and cooperation. Elena found herself in a grand chamber, seated across from Zarleth and several other high-ranking Zarkai. The room was a marvel of alien architecture, with sweeping arches that seemed to defy gravity and walls that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. Captain Reyes, Zarleth's mental voice was almost warm. "We hope you understand that our actions, while perhaps forceful, were born of necessity. Your species represents a unique opportunity for growth and understanding." Elena kept her face neutral, even as her mind raced behind her psionic defenses. "I understand the pursuit of knowledge, Overseer, but kidnapping and experimentation are hardly the foundations of a positive relationship between our peoples." Another Zarkai, introduced as Zarvex, leaned forward. "Perhaps we can make amends. We propose a cultural exchange. Allow a delegation of Zarkai to visit your ship, and in return, we will grant you more freedom to move about our vessel." Elena's heart leaped at the opportunity, even as warning bells rang in her mind. This could be their chance to turn the tables, but it could also be a trap. "An interesting proposal," she said carefully. "I would need to consult with my superiors, of course." Zarleth's eyes narrowed slightly. Of course, we will allow you to contact your ship. But remember, Captain, we value honesty above all else. Any attempt at deception will be unfortunate. As Elena was escorted to a communication chamber, her mind whirled with possibilities. She needed to warn Javed without alerting the Zarkay. The coded message in her last transmission had been a risk, but now she needed to convey more detailed information. The communication link established, and Javed's face appeared on the screen. Elena could see the concern in his eyes, masked by a professional demeanor. "Commander," she began, acutely aware of the Zarkay observers just out of the camera's view. "The Zarkay have proposed a cultural exchange. They wish to send a delegation to the horizon." Javed's expression remained neutral, but Elena could see the slight tightening around his eyes. He understood the potential danger. "I see, Captain. We would be honored to host our new friends. When can we expect them?" Elena allowed a small smile. "Soon, Commander. Make sure all departments are prepared for our guests, especially medical. We wouldn't want any miscommunications due to our biological differences." Javed's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. He got the message. "Understood, Captain. We'll make all necessary preparations. Is there anything else we should know about our visitors?" Elena paused, choosing her words carefully. "Only that they have a deep appreciation for mental disciplines. Perhaps we could arrange some demonstrations of human meditation techniques." "An excellent idea, Captain," Javed nodded. "We'll be ready. Horizon out." Zardev's mental voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Excellent. We shall commence immediately. Prepare yourself and your team, Captain. This exchange will mark a new chapter in both our histories." As Elena was escorted back to her quarters to prepare, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a razor's edge. The coming hours would determine not just the fate of her crew, but potentially that of the entire human race. Back on the horizon, Javed called an emergency meeting. The captain's warning was clear. He announced to his senior staff, "The Zarkay are coming, and we need to be ready." "Dr. Chen, what's the status of our psionic jammer?" Dr. Chen looked up from his datapad, his expression a mix of excitement and anxiety. "We've cobbled together a prototype. It's untested, of course, but in theory, it should create an electromagnetic field that disrupts psionic energy." "It'll have to do," Javed nodded. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, I want security teams with hidden jammers at every potential entry point. The rest of you, prepare your departments for inspection. Remember, we need to play along with this cultural exchange while looking for an opportunity to rescue our people." As the crew dispersed to their tasks, Javed stared out at the stars, his jaw set with determination. "Whatever you're planning, Elena," he murmured, "I hope you're ready. Because one way or another, this game is about to change." The stage was set. As both humans and Zarkay prepared for the upcoming cultural exchange, the fate of two species hung in the balance. The true test of humanity's unique mental resilience was about to begin, and the consequences would echo across the galaxy. The human weapon. The horizon hummed with nervous energy as the crew prepared for the arrival of the Zarkay delegation. In the ship's main hangar bay, Commander Javed Malik stood at attention, flanked by an honor guard of officers. Each officer wore a small, inconspicuous device clipped to their belt, the prototype psionic jammers. A shimmering field of purple energy materialized in the center of the hangar, coalescing into the forms of 5 Zarkay. Zarleth stood at the forefront, flanked by 4 others, including the scientist Zarvex. "Welcome aboard the horizon," Jade said, stepping forward with a practiced smile. "I am Commander Javed Malik. On behalf of Captain Reyes and the entire crew, we're honored to host you." Zarleth's mental voice resonated in the minds of all present. "The honor is ours, Commander. We look forward to learning more about your fascinating species." As the formal greetings were exchanged, Javed couldn't help but notice the subtle looks of confusion and frustration that passed between the Zarkay. The psionic jammers seemed to be working, at least partially. "Please, allow us to give you a tour of our vessel," Jade offered, gesturing towards the hangar exit. As the delegation moved through the ship, Zarvex hung back, walking alongside Javid. "Your ship is impressive, Commander," the alien scientist projected. "But I'm more interested in your crew. They seem resistant to our attempts at deeper communication." Javid kept his expression neutral. "I'm not sure I understand, Zarvex. We're communicating quite well, aren't we?" Zarvex's large eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed. How interesting." Meanwhile, aboard the Zarkai vessel, Captain Elena Reyes and her team were putting their own plan into action. With the majority of the high-ranking Zarkai aboard the Horizon, security on the alien ship had been slightly relaxed. Elena, Dr. Ling, and Ensign Tanaka crept through the twisting corridors of the Zarkai ship, guided by Tanaka's memorized sensor readings from their arrival. "We need to find their central computer core," Elena whispered. "If we can access it, we might be able to understand more about their psionic abilities and maybe find a way to protect ourselves." As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a pair of Zarkai guards. Before the aliens could raise an alarm, Elena and her team sprang into action. Months of captivity had honed their reflexes and their resolve. Elena ducked under a psionic blast from one guard, feeling it crackle harmlessly against her mental defenses. She drove her fist into the alien's midsection, surprising herself with the effectiveness of the blow against the seemingly ethereal being. Dr. Ling and Ensign Tanaka tackled the other guard, their combined physical assault overwhelming the Zarkai's psionic abilities. Within moments, both guards lay unconscious. "Well," Elena panted, "that answers one question. They can be fought physically." "Captain," Tanaka called out, examining a panel on the wall. "I think I found something. This looks like a data access point." Dr. Ling hurried over, her eyes widening as she studied the alien interface. "If I'm interpreting this correctly, Captain, I think we've stumbled onto something big. This isn't just a computer core. It's like a psionic amplifier." "What do you mean?" Elena asked, keeping watch for more guards. "The Zarkai," Dr. Ling explained, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "They're not naturally as powerful as we thought. This ship may be their whole civilization. It's built on technology that enhances and projects their psionic abilities." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "So without this technology, they'd be far less powerful," Dr. Ling nodded. "Still telepathic, probably, but not the overwhelming force they present themselves as." A plan began to form in Elena's mind. "Can you shut it down?" Dr. Ling bit her lip. "Maybe. But Captain, if I do this wrong, I could end up amplifying their powers instead. Or worse." "We have to try," Elena said firmly. "Do what you can. Ensign Tanaka, help her. I'll keep watch." As Dr. Ling and Tanaka worked feverishly at the alien console, Elena's mind raced. If they could neutralize the Zarkai's psionic advantage, they might have a chance of freedom. But the risks were enormous. Back on the horizon, the tour had reached the bridge. Zarleth stood at the center, his eyes roaming over the various stations with poorly concealed interest. "Your technology is primitive compared to ours," the overseer projected, "and yet you've achieved faster-than-light travel. Fascinating." Javid felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. The psionic jammers were working, but for how long? And what would happen when the Zarkai realized they were being deceived? Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came over the comm system. "Commander, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations from the Zarkai ship." Zarleth whirled to face Javid, his eyes blazing with fury. "What have you done?" The alien's mental voice boomed, the force of it causing several crew members to wince despite the jammers. Before Javid could respond, a blinding flash of light erupted from the Zarkai vessel. When it faded, the massive ship seemed to flicker, like a faulty hologram. On the Zarkai ship, Elena, Dr. Ling, and Ensign Tanaka braced themselves as the vessel shuddered around them. "What's happening?" Elena shouted over the cacophony of alarms. Dr. Ling looked up from the console, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and exhilaration. I think we did it, Captain. We've disrupted their psionic network." As if to confirm her words, a group of Zarkai rounded the corner, their movements panicked and uncoordinated. They raised their hands, presumably to launch a psionic attack, but nothing happened. Elena felt a surge of hope. Now's our chance. Let's move. As chaos erupted on both ships, the balance of power had suddenly, dramatically shifted. The human mind, once seen as a curiosity by the Zarkai, had become a weapon more powerful than either species could have imagined. The next few moments would determine the fate of both humanity and the Zarkai Empire. The battle for minds had entered its final decisive phase. Rebellion and resistance. The Zarkai vessel shuddered and groaned, its very structure seeming to waver as the psionic network that powered it collapsed. Captain Elena Reyes led her small team through the chaotic corridors, dodging panicked Zarkai and avoiding falling debris. "We need to get to their command center," Elena shouted over the din of alarms and creaking metal. "If we can take control of the ship, we might be able to end this without further bloodshed." Dr. Ling, her face streaked with sweat and grime, nodded in agreement. "According to the data I accessed, it should be 2 levels up from here." As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of Zarkai soldiers. For a moment, both parties froze, equally surprised. Then, Elena saw something she never expected: fear in the alien's eyes. "Wait," she called out, holding up her hands in a gesture of peace. "We don't want to fight you. Your psionic network is down, but we can help stabilize your ship." The Zarkai soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Without their psionic abilities, they seemed lost, almost childlike in their confusion. One of them stepped forward, its mental voice weak and stuttering in their minds. You did this. How?" Elena took a deep breath. "Your psionic abilities that artificially amplified. We disrupted the network, but we didn't destroy it. If you take us to your command center, we can work together to prevent a catastrophe." After a tense moment, the lead Zarkai nodded. "Follow us." Meanwhile, aboard the Horizon, chaos reigned. The Zarkai delegation, led by Zarleth, had turned hostile the moment their ship began to malfunction. Commander Javid Malik ducked behind a console as a burst of psionic energy, weaker now, but still dangerous, sizzled past his head. "All hands, this is not a drill. Repel boarders. Security teams, activate all psionic jammers." Lieutenant Rodriguez and her security team had been prepared for this eventuality. They swarmed onto the bridge, portable jammers at full power. The effect was immediate. The Zarkai delegation staggered, their psionic attacks fizzling out. Zarleth, his eyes wide with a mixture of rage and fear, turned to Javid. "What have you done to us?" His mental voice was barely a whisper now. Javid stood tall, facing the alien leader. "We've leveled the playing field, Overseer. Your psionic dominance ends here." As security officers moved to restrain the Zarkai, Javid turned his attention to the view screen, where the massive alien vessel continued to flicker and distort. "Elena," he murmured, "I hope you know what you're doing." Back on the Zarkai ship, Elena and her team had reached the command center. The vast chamber was a hive of activity, with Zarkai technicians frantically working to stabilize their systems. A tall, regal-looking Zarkai approached them, its mental voice strained but clear. "I am Zarnov, Second Overseer. You claim you can help us." Elena nodded. "Dr. Ling understands your psionic network. With your cooperation, we can restore minimal functionality and prevent a core breach." Zarnov hesitated for a moment, then gestured to a central console. "Do what you must." As Dr. Ling set to work, interfacing human ingenuity with alien technology, Elena turned to Zarnov. "This doesn't have to end in conflict. We came here to explore, to learn. We can still do that as equals." The alien's large eyes studied her intently. "Equals. We have ruled this sector of the galaxy for millennia. And now, in a matter of hours, you have brought us to our knees. Not to our knees, Elena corrected gently, to eye level. This is an opportunity, Zarnoth, to evolve beyond reliance on technological domination, to truly connect with other species. As they spoke, a noticeable change came over the ship. The flickering stopped, and the groaning of stressed metal subsided. Dr. Ling looked up from the console, her face beaming with exhausted pride. I've managed to stabilize the core and restore basic life support functions. The ship is no longer in danger of collapse. A wave of relief washed over the command center. Zarnoth turned to Elena, his mental voice tinged with a new emotion, respect. You could have destroyed us. Instead, you chose to help. Perhaps there is wisdom in your words, Captain Reyes. Elena allowed herself a small smile. This is just the beginning, Overseer. There's much we can learn from each other. Suddenly, the main view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the horizon. Javid's face appeared, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. Elena, thank God you're all right. What's the situation over there? Under control, Javid, Elena replied, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. The Zarkay ship is stabilized. I think we're on the verge of a new understanding. As Human and Zarkay stood side by side in the alien command center, the atmosphere began to shift. The fear and hostility that had dominated their interactions began to give way to curiosity and cautious optimism. Zarnoth stepped forward, addressing both his people and the humans. For too long, we have relied on our psionic dominance. We forgot the value of true connection, of earning trust rather than compelling it. Perhaps it is time for the Zarkay Empire to chart a new course. Elena nodded in agreement, and humanity is ready to join you on that journey, not as subjects or rulers, but as partners in exploration and discovery. As the words echoed through both ships, a palpable sense of hope filled the air. The rebellion against psionic domination had succeeded, not through violence, but through understanding and cooperation.